What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here to react to more of your comments. You guys have been all over our videos this week. Football is back, Angeball is back. We saw the kids absolutely smash Hearts in that second half. So let's go get into these comments.
All right, let's do it. The first comment we're going to be looking at is from Ali Name Seroja 4784. He says that Dan Kulusevski was an important individual and attacking winger for us, Tottenham and Tottenham's team. Tottenham must not sell Decky. No way for us to Spurs let him go. He was a versatile player for us. He can still play better. Played a false 9, played number 10. He'll be a very, very insane if Spurs were to sell and let him go. No way, Decky. No way. Come on, you Spurs. Someone who doesn't want Decky to go, it seems.
Yeah.
At all. There's rumours of potentially Napoli being interested. Did start the first pre-season game against Hearts. Do you feel like the best is still yet to come for Decky?
I do think like he's still got, levels to go. I think that when you look at the way he started his Spurs career and how it's panned out till now, I don't think he'd be entirely happy. I do feel like he's a very, very good football player. I believe in his abilities massively. But I've said it, and I'll say it again, I'm just not 100% sure where he fits in. Is he just going to be a bit of a utility man under Ange Postecoglou? I'm not too sure. If a big offer comes in, I would seriously consider it, though. I love him, though, as a player, and it would be hard to see him go. But I feel like just because of the situation the squad is in, potentially a foreign player might need to leave to make room to better the squad and to further the squad to get players in that we actually specifically need in exact parts of the team to fit the system down to a T. I think if a big offer comes in, I would consider it.
I always said if we're going to play him centrally, I want to see him play alongside a Maddison rather than in the number 10 itself. And I actually thought against Hearts, him playing on that right-hand side of the midfield alongside Maddison actually really benefited him. And I thought he looked a lot better than he has done when he's played in the number 10. So I do want to see us pursue that and see what that looks like in higher quality games. But yeah, I'm a big fan of his. Everyone knows watching this channel, I love Decky. I think he's such a good quality player. And I feel like if we were to let him go, part of me feels like there will be a mistake. I don't think we are thinking about letting him go. But if Napoli are seriously interested in, if they do get a lot of money by selling Kavisha or Osimhen, and they've got a lot of money to play with, and they do put a big offer for Decky, that will be something we would have to seriously consider at that time. But for me, I think he's a player who can play well in a number of different positions. So I think he would be so useful keeping around.
I agree with that, and I'm not sitting here saying we must sell him, we need to get him out of the club. I'm not one of those, because I know there are a few Spurs fans that do feel that way. But I'm just saying if one of those offers come in 50, 60, 65 million, I think it is something that we should consider.
Baltrod says Lancashire's off-the-ball movement is already so good. On his goal, he recognised the play developing, got himself back on side, curved his run. On Mikey's goal, he drew the centre-back out of position. Such a baller. Excited to see him develop into the mainstay first-team player.
Can't agree more, man.
Yeah, very impressive.
Cannot agree more. It's mad because we only saw him for like 15 minutes, just under 20 minutes in that game against Hearts. And I was just sitting here and I was just blown away from what I was seeing. It was like we were seeing a seasoned veteran play and come on, and with his movement, with his physicality, with his finishing ability. I mean, everything was to such high quality, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was really impressive. Such great physicality. What I really liked about what I saw from him is how he was backing into defenders, holding the ball up, bringing other players into play as well. And obviously, when he got that opportunity, didn't need a second invitation, did he, to put that in the back of the net, right in the side netting. And really, really impressive cameo performance he had. Now, I really want to see him start against QPR to see what he can do from the start against a good championship side.
Dare I say it, there are a bit of similarities to one other Harry Kane.
Potentially.
There are, though, like the way he struck the ball, the way he backs into defenders, you can see that he's like taken parts of his game and trying to implement it.
You know who he reminds me of actually is Evan Ferguson. He's he seems quite a similar player to him. So I wonder, and obviously Evan Ferguson made quite a big impression as a teenager, albeit he tailed off a bit last season, but we're very interested to see if he does get a run in the first team.
Lancashire also started off at the Arsenal Academy and got let go, but the difference between Lancashire and Kane is Lancashire is actually a Spurs fan.
Damn right, one of our own. Mike Naylor says nobody is talking about Werner. He was extremely busy and putting some dangerous crosses in. I think we can see why Ange likes him. Did get an assist, I think, for Spence's goal, set up a couple of chances as well. Are people guilty of overlooking Werner? I mean, but then again, there was that moment where he dribbled off the pitch, wasn't there? Which is like classic Werner as well.
That moment where he dribbled off the pitch gave me a bit of goosebumps, I'll tell you that. But look, Werner played well, no doubt about it. And you expect him to play well against that level of opposition. I feel like Werner can do a certain job. He can get the ball and put crosses into dangerous areas, no problems. But I think that's about where he's about limited to.
Yeah, he's really got that shimmy to the right, go down the line to the left, and use his left foot to put the ball across the face of goal. He's got that down pat. But what we know is he needs space to do that. He needs to be playing in a situation where he's one-on-one against the defender, and it's very hard to stop him when he does that. But I feel like when he's restricted with that space, he's a lot easier to deal with. And that's, I think, sometimes last season where it came unstuck, where teams are sitting a low block and all of a sudden Timo became a bit ineffective. But in those situations, we know he can do that.
If we didn't have a problem with the kind of homegrown and foreign quota and the situation that we have in the squad, I wouldn't be as bothered as I was and as I am about signing Timo Werner. But because we're in this situation, because we need real quality in that forward line, that is why we were so frustrated about the Timo Werner signing.
Yeah, completely agree. Ian West 7003 says we need to be careful with Mikey Moore. He looks ready to play, but things as simple as bone density are not fully developed until your youth are about 20. Look what starting early did to Cess. We need to manage his time, keep him away from the Matty Cashes of this world, and maybe even Romero to ensure we look after this future star. Make sure that he's always on Romero's team in training.
I agree with that, because you saw, I think it was last summer, Reguilon posted up a picture of his shins with a massive scar down it with blood gushing out of it, and the caption was "Welcome back, Kuti." And you know, Kuti don't take any prisoners in training, so I completely wholeheartedly agree with that. Keep him out of Kuti's opposition in the pre-season training or training throughout the year. But in terms of what he's saying about, you know, we need to be careful with his minutes, I completely agree with that. I mean, I feel like you're looking at players like Lamine Yamal, who's playing a lot at the moment. They're not really managing his minutes too much, and I think that could be to the detriment of him. When you're at the age of 16, 17, going into your latter teenage years, you need to manage the progress very well. And we've seen too many players start so early on in their career and then just burn out so early. Just look at the Michael Owens of this world. Even Wayne Rooney to a certain extent, you know. Yeah. Wayne Rooney also burnt out early. So
by 30, he was done pretty much.
Yeah. So, yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. JRD7307 says, too many fans are sleeping on Tyrese Hall. He's a solid player with a lot of promise. I thought, yeah, for all the cameos in the second half against Hearts, I thought his one maybe didn't get enough attention. I thought he was really confident. I thought when he got on the ball, there was some really nice dribbles from him, really taking players on, weaving in and out of situations. I thought he looked comfortable on the ball, some really good switches to play as well. So I want to see more of him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think he looked very impressive. But it's like a real big balancing act Spurs have got to do this summer, don't we? Because we've got all these youth players that look, all of them just look so impressive. But not all of them can be part of the first team next season. We need to bring also quality that is going to be here now, ready-made, to help us challenge to what we want to challenge for. So it's going to be interesting to see which ones are kept around and which ones are maybe loaned out to aid their development a bit more.
Yeah, I think Andrew's got a lot of decisions to make. Which ones of these youngsters are really ready to make an impact and make a contribution to the first team? Which youngsters need further development in the youth levels? Which youngsters need loan deals to develop as well? It's a tough decision. These are really crucial times, and you can see how talented these youth players are. And there's a lot of big decisions that Andrew's got to make for next season. Martin Walton is talking about the story about Gyökeres that Sporting are potentially prepared to take a cut price fee for him. He says, I'm based in Lisbon and the Gyökeres story is nonsense. Sporting have trimmed the squad and moved on a few elder players and still have the option of selling Edwards and Diamande. They really don't need to accept a lesser offer for a Gyökeres fee and are in a relatively strong financial position. And Kulu Daddy, in the next one, 789, he says Spurs are just building a Swedish national team if we sign Gyökeres.
The golden generation of Sweden, Lucas Bergvall, Dejan Kulusevski, Gyökeres as well. But I never really believed that Gyökeres story from yesterday. I mean, Dean Jones' soccer is, I mean, it's not the greatest source in the world, is it? So
No.
I never really believed it to start with. And yeah, why would they need to accept lower than the release clause? They just signed him. This is only his first year there.
Yeah, and obviously he's got a release clause of 85 million. Look, if I think for me, with the Gyökeres deal, if we can get him for like 60 million, then I think we got to jump at that. I think 85. I mean, is this guy worth close to 100 million? I'm not 100% sure just yet, but he's in serious form. I think profile-wise, physically-wise, he could definitely fit the profile. But if we're talking about spending 85 million. Or spending 25 million on David, and then you got an extra 60 million to play for, I'll probably do that and sign another player for 60 million. But if you're talking about 60 million for Gyökeres, I think the balance then tips back into the Gyökeres' favour, and maybe that would be worth the punt. But yeah, look, I don't know if they're gonna be stubborn with their price or not.
There's three options that you can take. Yeah, there's three options. I spoke about this on Brian Daigle's show yesterday. Not in this exact way, but so you sign Gyökeres for 85 million, right? Only Gyökeres. You sign Eze and Jonathan David for around similar price, or you sign Ivan Toney for like 45 million and Chiesa for 25 million. Which you taking?
I think David and Eze.
You think David and Eze? I think I'm taking. I don't know which one I'm taking actually, because you're looking at Toney. I think Toney comes in ready-made for the Premier League. I have spoken about his attitude problems before. Chiesa, I feel like Ange can get him back to his best, particularly playing in an attacking system. I really believe in Chiesa. Eze is obviously the pick of the bunch out of all of those players. But I think I might be just about siding with Chiesa and Toney,
Chiesa and Toney. In terms of profile-wise, you could argue that's the best fit profile-wise. In terms of you got a winger who plays the way Chiesa does on the wing, you got Toney who's a physicality up front, which we do need. I'm feeling like Eze is just pure quality. I think can fit in anywhere, and then Jonathan David will get, I reckon, at least 10 to 15 goals, and even if he hits the ground running, could maybe be pushing 20 goals potentially with his quality. So if you're getting that many goals anyway. Is it worth moving? Is it worth sacrificing Eze for Chiesa just for I don't know, for how many goals you're gonna get more from Toney?
I think Toney brings a lot more to his game though, doesn't he, than Jonathan David?
But yeah, I think all round game Toney definitely does bring more. I agree with that. So from that point of view, I can definitely see the benefit to that. Chiesa as well has his injury problems. Is he back to his best? We have to see whether Ange can get him back to his best. I think Eze is more of a sure thing than
I agree with
Chiesa
that
as well. So I think, I'd think.
All right, what about this one? Jonathan David and Eze, or Toney and Neto?
Oh, Jonathan David and Eze, or Toney and Neto. I think I might go with Toney and Neto.
We broke him, people. All right, let's go on.
Where are we? We're at
Danny Murphy.
Danny Murphy, 1779 says, going to voice an unpopular opinion, guys. Seen Gray a number of times due to my own Southampton being in the Championship last season, and my honest opinion is Gray is not a first-team player for Spurs. Yes, he's a very competent player, and we all know how unforgiving the Premiership is. It's all very well and good being versatile, but what is the point when there are like 15 subs on the bench? I think in time he'll end up in a Declan Rice role, but could be a while off, and I'm sure Gray will come good. But I would be surprised if it is this season. He's saying that Gray isn't quite ready yet.
Yeah, look, it's hard for us to completely disagree or agree with it because we've only seen him in a 45-minute friendly against Hearts, so it's hard to say whether he's ready or not. He looked the best player on the park when he was on the pitch for those first 45 minutes, and he was playing out of position in centre-back, and he was playing alongside the majority of our first team as well. So it's hard to say, it's hard for us to argue that he's not ready when he puts in a performance like that and outshines a lot of the first team players. But look, he's seen him maybe week in, week out in the Championship, so it's hard to argue with him. Having said that, you're looking at our number 6 position for next season. If Jed Spence, let's say for argument's sake, Jed Spence does play, so Archie Gray is not needed at right back, do we still need another midfielder to come in this window?
It depends whether we really believe Gray can do the 6 role. I mean, Gray says his best position's in the 8.
Yeah.
But we do have Bentancur there. We got Sarr there. Maybe there's even a case of, could we convert Bentancur into a 6? Is he getting back to his best? There are glimpses of it for Uruguay. Could he do that role? And if he can, is there a need for a number 6? Obviously, Basuma, we know he can do the role, but it's whether he can do it consistently. That is that big problem as well. There's a lot of talk that the number 6 was, before the end of last season, one of the most, if not the most important role we need. You look at the top teams, they all have a top player in that position. So is that a crucial position? I would say if it was if it was up to me and the choice was to sign one or not to sign one, I would sign one, a number 6, someone who could really play that role consistently to a really good level. But looking at Archie Gray, how composed he was, and his potential in that role, and we've got Basuma there as well, is going to probably be the senior player if it's kept on. I mean, there's an argument to be said we could go with it, but then we could, let's be honest, if we don't sign a player there, and then we come here at the end of the season, we haven't achieved our goals, and Gray hasn't seemed up to it, who's going to get the flack? It's going to be our higher ups, isn't it? Yeah,
but you look at it in reality, with the midfield options that we have, do we have a space in the squad? Unless there's a full guy there, and we're assuming that Lo Celso and Højbjerg are gone already, and we're replacing them with Bergvall and Archie Gray, right? Mm-hmm. Who's going to be the full guy? Unless Basuma goes, is there a space for another midfielder to come in?
It depends. Yeah, it depends if we keep Spence on. If we keep Spence on, maybe not. But
I'm saying assuming we're keeping Spence on. If
we keep Spence on, and we're looking at Gray as purely as midfielder, then you would have to say we probably made our decision. I assumed when we signed Gray that we signed him as a backup to Porro and also give him minutes when we can in midfield. But if Spence is staying on, that backup to Porro is not going to be a place where he's going to get a lot of minutes. So then he becomes purely a midfielder, and on that basis, there's less of a need to sign another one.
Maybe he's backup right centre-back as well.
Backup right centre-back, yeah, maybe we don't need another centre-back. Selling Dragoshin.
Yeah.
Make Dragoshin's agent happy. Brian Heels 5064 says Bergvall has the look of a Modric.
That is big words, people.
Big words. Modric, someone Ballon d'Or potentially in the future?
Well, it was actually Archie Gray who said he wants to win the Ballon d'Or one day, but Lucas Bergvall, he did look like something special, particularly in the second half of the second half against Hearts. Look, it was only against Hearts, but it's his first taste of English football, isn't it? And even that Hearts team is probably maybe an upgrade or maybe incomparable to the teams that he's been facing week in, week out in the Swedish league. I thought he was very, very impressive. He's so silky on the ball. He's got that eye for a pass. He looks really creative. And I think he's going to produce something special in the coming years for Spurs.
Do we think long term Bergvall will play in a bit like an 8 Modric kind of role, or do we see him as a number 10?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. I feel like he's
based
one.
Off the 45 minutes we've seen him.
I feel like based on that 45 minutes, he can play either to a high standard.
He seemed to play a bit deeper, didn't he? Definitely was getting involved in build-up. There was that one moment where he picked the ball up from the centre-backs, from the keeper even,
Yeah.
and was did some really nice build-up play, which definitely had elements of, a Modric kind of deep-line playmaker role. But for Djurgården, apparently in the Cambridge friendly, he was playing a bit further forward, a bit in the number 10. So I think obviously it's a case of wait and see. But I got a feeling he prefers to play a bit deeper. But
he did. He said it.
And he says he'd like to play a bit more of a number 8.
Yeah. But you look at it, James Maddison a lot of the time last year played very deep. So our 10 can drop deep and knit the play together as well.
Yeah, also a good point. James Hart 2859 says, can't wait to see how many youngsters can match this performance at QPR. I'll judge players properly on that performance. Do you reckon the QPR game will be a better indication if they can perform in that game than the Hearts game?
Are QPR better than Hearts?
Good question. I don't know where did Hearts finish last season?
I think, was it 3rd or 4th in the SPL?
I mean, yeah, on that basis, they're probably fairly similar to a mid-range championship team, aren't they?
I'll try to look at where they finish, but...
And also, potentially, QPR maybe won't bring in a load of youngsters like Hearts.
They finished 3rd.
So maybe... So they're a good Scottish team then. And on that basis, that seems quite similar to... because I think QPR were like 18th or something, weren't they?
Yeah, maybe they are a bit similar. I really want to see these players, and I don't think we can properly probably judge them until we see them against like the Bayern Munich double header. I mean, if they shine in that game, then I think we've really got like probably more special talents than we could ever imagined.
Yeah, it's all very, very exciting. I think we're all just dreaming of like this golden generation of young players who are all going to all come through the Spurs ranks, all loyal to Tottenham, and are going to be here forever and dominate for years to come. It's something that we probably haven't seen since. Obviously, you got the famous United 92 team. You got the Barca team that dominated under Pep, which is a lot of them were academy products. But it's a very rare thing. So that's something that obviously every club dreams of, but it's also very rare for a reason.
You don't want to talk about Poch's Spurs, the Bentalebs, the Masons.
I don't think the same level. But this could be something special. But
it could be. But the reality is the opposition has been poor so far. So we have to. I think we do have to keep our feet on the ground a little bit until we do see them against better opposition.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that's like the dream. But that's like. And obviously that would be Levy's wet dream, having all these players come through the academy and not having to spend the money and having these players, making these players yourself. That's what obviously the most self-sustainable model would be, not even having to sign players, having these players come through. So that would obviously be the dream, but there's a reason why it's so rare, because it's when you develop these players, the hardest thing is probably developing them from the academy to getting them into the first, and that's the hardest step.
Yeah.
And yes, they're looking good at the moment, but it's all about whether they can do it consistently, whether they can actually make that step from, from academy, playing well and dominating there to actually excelling in the first team. And, you're not just going to know that based on 45 minutes against Hearts in a friendly.
Correct.
I think there's the last one. Daniel Hackett says, Spence should be backup for the right-back position. Inverted role seems to suit him. No need to spend money on a backup when we have someone that suits the role well enough. Daniel Hackett seems sold on Spence. Yeah,
I mean, look, I did bring this point up towards, I don't know whether it was after the season or towards the back end of last season, that, he's having a good time of it at Genoa. Why not take a look at him and see if we can make something out of him? And it would save us a lot of money. He's not only just going to be covered for the right, but he can also be covered for the left as well. He did play for Genoa, inverted left back, inverted right back, pretty well. That performance against Hearts, yes, I know, we'll talk about it again, it's poor quality. But it's not just the quality he showed and how much better he looked than anyone on the pitch on that day, but it's also the attitude that he showed on the pitch, which was, very impressive for me. I don't think I've ever seen Spence put in a performance like that, with that attitude to keep going, darting through the pitch every second, every moment that he can, showing quality as well, laying on an assist, getting a goal. I want to see him do this for the for the remainder of pre-season, and I think a decision can be made at some point, maybe when we get back from the tour. If Ange sees that he's applied himself throughout the whole of pre-season, and we get to 2 weeks, a week before the season, and he's still showing this kind of attitude, then I would 100% keep him on.
Yeah, we might be sitting here thinking, counting our lucky stars that Genoa didn't stump up the 8 million.
Yeah.
This would be incredible to think about.
Yeah.
Look, I'm pulling for him. I really hope he can prove all the doubters wrong, including myself. I didn't think he had a future here, but if he can show more performances like he did against Hearts and the attitude, then I'm more than willing to give him a second opportunity. You know how I like to give players another chance. So, look, I'm all for Spence finding his way back in the team. He's still young. He's got time to turn things around. And why not? If he shows he's good enough and Ange likes him, I'm all for giving him another opportunity. But he needs to really have a big pre-season.
All right. Well, that is us reacting to your comments this week. We'll be back next week. I'm not sure where from. Where will we be this time next week?
We'll be back on Saturday for the watch along. But
no, I'm talking about for the comments.
Oh, for the comments, yeah.
Where
we're
will we be
gonna
back next week? Korea or Japan?
In a week's time, I think we're going to be in Japan. Was it 26th? Yeah, Japan.
All right. So live from Japan, we'll react to your comments. So get your comments in and we'll react to them next week. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you everyone for leaving your comments as well. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.